everybody, welcome to Belgium, to Ardennes and to the city of Spa, the place that gave its name to bottled and healing waters. Many centuries before the mineral waters of Spa were famous, this city had made its mark on society. It was incorporated in 1594. It was the first place in the world to hold a beauty pageant, and that was in 1888. Many believe it's the birthplace of the fictional character Hercule Poirot, and for the last 96 years, it's also been the home of the renowned motor racing circuit of Spa-Francorchamps.
This is officially the first and second round of the 24H Pro Series. We're here at the legendary circuit of Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, and we're here for the 2x5 hour races of the 24H Pro Series 2017.
Among the prototypes contesting the race will be Ginetta and Ligier, but a unique opportunity here for GT cars also to be in competition.
Here in Spa we also have GT cars joining the field of prototype cars. Well, this decision was mainly done to offer also our GT customers the chance to race on this legendary circuit, and therefore the race is combined.
This is the first time that we've had a mixed GT and prototype field in the 24-hour Pro Tour Series. In 2018, we'll see this more often.
Next year we will have a few races where either the GT and touring cars will race together, as well as the GT and prototypes. But I can assure you the prototypes will never race together with the touring cars.
And the drivers are supporting this new initiative of a mixed grid.
I think it's great. I think it's great to have the GT cars in. I normally do the V2V races where we have the GT cars and the prototype cars. I think it's fantastic. I think you get more action, more overtaking, more stuff going on the track. So absolutely, I think bring the GT cars on.
It was a hectic Friday schedule. The 24-hour Touring Car Endurance Series are also racing at Spa this weekend, and they had their free practice and qualifying session in the morning. The Proto Series therefore had limited time for their free practice and qualifying, which weren't split. They went straight from one to the other. The Simpson number 3 car did set the best time.
As we have pole position, it was a good lap. It was only my third lap this weekend in this car because of the wet and the short practices. And it wasn't a wet, so it was quite interesting, but we are happy with the pole position.
Yeah, I mean, we had a really good qualifying. Jordan had great pace. I think he had pace good enough for pole, just got caught in a little bit of traffic. So to start on the front row was great for us.
But qualifying wasn't a high priority for all of the teams.
We didn't really do qualifying today. We rocked up pretty late here, so there wasn't much practice. So practice just went into qualifying. I think we qualified 3rd or 4th, but we were more concentrating on the setup for the race.
Conventional thinking is that every team aims for pole position.
Not really, no, because it's a 5-hour race, and there's 4 pit stops, there's fuel stops, there's driver changes. So whether you start 1st or 5th, the difference of 2 or 3 seconds. It's more about surviving the first lap, keeping out of trouble, and then having some quick pit stops and being quick on average over the next 5 hours, as opposed to the qualifying position.
The field is on their warm-up lap. On pole, the Simpson number 3. From the Ginetta number 5 of Team LNT in 2nd. On the 2nd row, Prime Racing number 4 is in 3rd. 4th position for the Ligier of Monza Garage in the P3 category. The 2nd Simpson car is 5th, with the 2 Speed Lover Porsche 78 and 79 in behind. Lights off, the race has started, and Ben Tuck leads the pack.
Yeah, so it's very tense at the start. Obviously, you're trying to keep an eye on everyone else, and you're wondering whether who's going to brake latest. So you're trying to brake later than everyone else, but obviously too late and you're going to go off. But yes, so it's brilliant competition, everyone heading into the first corner all together.
On board the number 8 Ligier, running wide in the first corner. Loses its 4th position to the 78 Porsche, but on the straight, Neil Muston quickly gets that place back. The view from the Speed Lover 79 Porsche proving the amount of water that the drivers are having to deal with. Not just hard to see what's ahead, almost impossible to stay on the track. The 3 and the 5 prototypes head the field as they go behind the trees, and as they come back into sight, just one of them still remaining. Jordan Sanders has lost the LNT Ginetta.
It's a shame of how the race had to end. It was just a simple mistake on Jordan's behalf. He's, you know, these things happen in motorsport. It was just a slight overcorrection at the top of Eau Rouge, which ended up in contact with a barrier, doing a substantial amount of damage to the car, which is unfortunately unfixable for tomorrow. So our weekend is over. It's a real shame because I'd like to thank the boys who've done a great job building the car to be ready for this weekend. So it's a bit of a shame that we had to end this way, but it's motorsport. We love the sport, but sometimes it's tough, but it makes winning all the sweeter.
Those who were racing behind the 5 Ginetta G57 saw exactly what happened.
After the start, we have the turn 1. Okay, we go downhill. After you have the Eau Rouge and Radion, and I was number 3 at this time, and I've seen the car just before me splitting and going on the wall. I think the car slipped because it touched the curb a little bit, and the car is with the wet weather. Disaster. When you touch the curb, the car is no more possible to control. And at the moment, you slow a little bit because you don't know if the car will go on the right or the left side. And at one moment, I see a wheel faster than my car, and I said, "What happened?" And I said, "Okay, I have to push the gas because if I stay like this, the wheel is coming, and I will be hit by the wheel, which is a disaster for me."
Fortunately, no disaster for the Belgian number 4 prototype, but terrible luck for the British LNT team, who came across the channel specifically to participate in this prototype endurance series. Their race is ended in the first minute of competition. The car is unrepairable. The remaining competitors have the rest of this race ahead of them, as well as another race tomorrow. The hard-working marshals were able to clear the track of the damaged Ginetta under the safety of the purple Code 60 flag. And once that was done, the race was back to green and full racing speed. Up front, and having built a great gap again, Ben Tuck in the number 3 Ginetta of Simpson Motorsport. Of course, we expected the prototype cars to have more speed than the GT cars with whom they share the field, but not up to pace at the moment is the number 2, the second Simpson Motorsport entry. And given that their team car, the number 3, is leading, it's slightly surprising to see the number 2 so far back.
We had a tough start. We got out late, so I was locked in the pit lane and had to start last. And I've never driven in rain like that before. You guys have some proper rain here. I was cautious, so I kind of had more hairy moments as it started to dry out, because then I thought things were getting better, and had the car snap away from me a couple of times. But it's a great car. It's actually very forgiving to drive, and I just kind of worked my way into it, and I think was very lucky. I had a flawless stint.
The weather conditions changing lap by lap makes it hard for everyone in the field, including the race leader.
Yeah, so midway through my stint, it started really raining quite hard, and there was quite a few laps where it was aquaplaning a lot, and I was, going down every straight just on half power, not even using full power, and the car sliding around everywhere. So it got pretty hairy for a couple laps, but then luckily it dried out for the end of my stint, so that was quite fun at the end again as well.
Maybe those who call the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps their home track have a slight advantage, especially in this weather.
For me, it's no problem. I like the Sorat, so no problem for me. In Belgium is very water, so they say no problem for now.
We managed to fight our way back to second, so finished P2 at the end of a stint, but it was fantastic. It was probably the best time I've ever had in a car.
Not all of the participants were successful in handling the difficult conditions.
I kind of braked a little late, and kind of got into the puddle that I'd managed to avoid for 20 laps, and there went the car. But fortunately, harmless in the gravel, but in the gravel, you can't. Once you're in it, that's it. You're finished, So they pulled me out pretty quickly, so no problem. Yeah.
Let's have a look at how they stand after 2 hours of racing. It's an impressive early lead built up by English team Simpson Motorsport with their number 3 Ginetta G57. They have a 3-lap advantage over second, third and fourth. In second, the number 8 Ligier GSP3 of Monza Garage. Third is the Belgian Prime Racing Ginetta number 4. Number 8 Ligier is the P3 entry and leads that class. So in P2, second for now is the Prime Racing number 4, Simpson Motorsport number 2 third. The SPX class is the domain of the Porsche 991 Cup cars of Speed Lover Racing. Their number 78 entry has a 2-lap lead over their teammates in the 79. Difficult conditions at Spa-Francorchamps means the teams are racing the weather as much as their competitors. And there's plenty of racing still to come. The legendary Spa-Francorchamps circuit. 7 kilometres or 4.3 miles, which takes in difficult fast corners, dramatic elevation changes, over 100 metres from the lowest to the highest point. Add to that unpredictable weather, and this is one of the greatest challenges in all of motorsport, which is why the drivers love to compete here.
Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps has a very rich history in motorsports. It was hosting the Formula One in early stages. It's hosting it since 2 years again now. There's very modern on-track facilities, but especially the hilly circuit, long circuit along the Belgian Ardennes is making it a special experience for any driver to drive here.
You know, it commands a bit of respect, especially that dipper there. What's it called, En Rouge or something? Yeah, I don't even know the names of most of the corners. But yeah, you do need to be respectful because it's not a lot of exit room in some of those corners.
The circuit is fantastic. It's one of those legendary circuits, you know, in the world, along with the Nordschleife. So yeah, it was great to be able to drive and take Eau Rouge in fairly quick speed in the wet as much as I could.
It's a common misconception that Eau Rouge is the difficult left-hander at the top of the hill after the old start-finish line. Eau Rouge is a small iron-rich river over which the track runs at the bottom of the hill. The corner that always impresses the drivers is actually called Radillon, meaning steep hill. But Eau Rouge and Radillon aren't the only interesting parts of the circuit.
There are some, in my view, 3 great corners. Rouge and Radillon, Pouron and Blanchimont. You know, so those are really great corners.
The magic of Spa is the Radillon, and the complete of the circuit is very good. And I know Spa, and I like here Radillon.
Well, I guess it's the whole, you know, the fact that it's one of the most famous tracks in the world to start with, but also the fact that, you know, it's up and down, lots of undulations. It's got Eau Rouge and Radillon, the most famous corners in the world, I'd say. Yeah, it's just epic. I love the scenery as well, the fact that it's part of a forest and there's a racetrack in it. It's crazy, it's beautiful.
The rolling hills of the Ardennes area of Belgium are famous for their weather changes. That's another reason that Spa is just so challenging.
The spray is also interesting. You know, at times like I didn't see anything, but I can imagine what it is when there are 40 cars on the track at the start of the race. It's going to be like interesting. I mean, we were lucky; we had 8 cars, you know, so it was pretty simple. But that's pretty challenging as well.
I love Spa. Spa is my the most favorite track that I ever did, and I like, honestly, the tricky conditions. So for me, it's nice, the tricky conditions.
You know, learning the nuances of the track. It's the first time I've ever driven here on wets in the rain, for instance. So yeah, every time you come here, you learn something new.
Obviously, in the rain, it's much more challenging, but the corners are still very rewarding. I particularly like the fast double left-hander out the back of the circuit. It was really, you know, testing, and it was great to carry that amount of speed through there.
The track, the weather, and of course the cars make up a total package which puts Spa at the top of many drivers' must-do list.
I mean, Spa's built for a car like this, so we have great downforce, good brakes, so compared to a GT car, it's just a very different way of driving, so you can really explore the limits of the circuit in the car, and it rewards you to carry speed everywhere. It's a unique experience, really, and we've got all new drivers in the cars this weekend, and they love it. Even in these bad conditions at the minute, everyone's really enjoying it.
I like trying things that are hard, and you know, learning to drive a downforce fast car like the Ginetta at my age is not something most people would do, but I just love it. I love driving the car, and I love the circuits, and love endurance racing.
It's the first time with the P2, So it's a very good and very attractive experience. The Spa for the first time, well, it's like a holiday on ice.
Well, fantastic. I love coming to Spa. I've had sort of ups and downs here over the years, and had a bad crash here last year in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. But came back in May with the Group C and my Spice Chevy and won a couple of races in May. I just love coming to Spa, and the opportunity arose only a few days ago to get into the G57, and it's just so much fun driving a prototype around Spa. Just a pity there's not a few more competitors.
The cars have got a very good aero from the wings and from the floor, and these cars are pretty challenging to drive, so especially on a track like Spa-Francorchamps where there's lots of aero corners, a professional driver can help out the so-called AM drivers, although my co-drivers are very good AM drivers. They have week jobs. They're not driving day in, day out like I am, and they've smashed all expectations, to be honest, and done a fantastic job.
It's the third hour of the race. The rain has passed by, the track is slowly drying. The number 3 Ginetta is coming into the pit lane slowly. The mechanics remove some tape from the front of the car.
We taped up the brake ducts this morning to increase the brake temperature with the wet conditions, and now we've dropped, temperatures are increasing a little bit, dry weather. We've just removed the tape to let the cooling air go into the front brakes.
Surely this pit stop will cost the team more than it can recover on track.
We were going for fuel anyway. Yeah, but with the time here was probably 5 seconds, and over the brake, cooking the brakes and the long pedal, then yeah, it probably was worth it.
Even after the fuel stop, with the Simpson Ginetta back on track, its 3-lap lead means it was never in danger at the top of the standings. Christophe Capelli is new to prototypes, so how did he enjoy his stint?
It was quite hard to drive, mostly because at the beginning we had a lot of aquaplaning, but well, it's a real pleasure to do it.
Christophe is no stranger to the Creventic organised endurance series, but this is the first time in the P2 car. So how does he set those best lap times?
I have with me 2 very good drivers, so he tried to help me quite a lot with the radio, mostly explaining to me at the beginning that it was quite dangerous. But well, after a while, they started to tell me, okay, go on, push. And well, the score was here, it was decreasing, and it was marvelous.
There's almost no spray now, and everyone can get quicker. This is great news for the prototypes in particular, who find it even easier to pass the GT cars on track. The prototypes are the fastest series that Creventic organises, next to their GT Endurance Series and Touring Car Endurance Series. But in the world of endurance, cars have to be reliable, and you're not going to get a good result if the car has to come to the pits for repairs.
Steve just got in the car, did 5 laps, and then had a vibration, some bad vibration, so don't know what it is, so just checking the transmission or the clutch or the flywheel or anything.
There are few places that these kind of cars can race full endurance races. So are these prototypes well equipped to do the longer races?
It's great. I mean, it's got a lot of downforce, good engine, lots of power. Yeah, I just wish it was dry so we can push the car a bit more, but yeah, it's good. The timetable's been very tight for us this weekend, so I'm sure tomorrow everything will be much better, I'm sure.
But Mike has not raced the car himself yet.
Simon Murray took the start, Steve Town is in the car, and I hopefully will be in at the end.
The dry weather hasn't lasted. Just at the beginning of John Corbett's stint in the number 8 Ligier, the Belgian Ardennes mountains have caught some more rain clouds, and it's back to wet conditions.
When I got in the car, it really started pouring down. So I heard on the radio that there was a lot of aquaplaning and things going on, so I took it very kind of cautiously for the first 10-15 minutes till that rain eased off. Yeah, well, there's some pretty hairy areas, you know, standing water and stuff, because there's not a lot of cars on the track. It's not getting pushed away, so just had to be really careful. Rain stopped, sun came out, started to dry out a little bit, and yeah, speed picked up. We're in P2, happy with that. We'll see how we go.
The main problem, I think, is really the braking. The braking points are extremely difficult to find when you switch all the time from very wet track to slightly wet track to starting to dry track and dry track. I think braking points are really the main issue here.
When Jean-Marc got into the car, the track was dry, and so slick tyres were the choice.
Well, it was the first dry weather stint we had this weekend, so that was quite nice. At the end, it started raining, which was less nice. So I did 3 or 4 laps under the rain with slick tires until it was really not possible anymore to continue on the slick tires, and we had to go for wet.
The regulations say drivers can do double stints. That allows them up to 2 hours of continuous racing. But not many have opted for that.
You know, I only like having a wet bum for an hour, not an hour and a half. No, the first driver did an hour, I did an hour, and then our pro's in right now, he'll do an hour. So we're not kind of doing any long stints, we're just doing simple one hour stints.
Just getting to the flag in the 79 Porsche is today's task for Peter Van Est.
For me it was amazing. It's my first race with the Porsche and it's my first race in the rain, and I was really happy with the car. The car felt good. There was a lot of water on the track, so the car even in the straights was going from the left to the right, but I kept the throttle down, so even the prototypes were difficult to pass me, so I'm feeling happy with today, so I'm really happy.
5 hours of racing is completed. The number 3 Simpson Motorsport Ginetta crosses the finishing line and sees the checkered flag first. It was a short race for Andreas Laskaratos. He only got into the car 15 minutes before the end.
Suit up, driver change went smoothly. I take over, we go down to fuel, and then it was pretty much the end of the race. We had to save some fuel and to try and, well, really just bring her home. We were too far ahead to be under pressure, which has its own difficulties. You know, it's driving under pace. It's not easy to keep concentrated. And at some point it was really pouring down. Visibility was very low. Aqua planning was at 3-4 spots on the track. So that was quite interesting. And then we brought her home in one piece.
3rd place overall, a great result for the only P3 car on track, the number 8 Ligier.
Yeah, it was pretty good. There wasn't too many cars in the race, but we battled away and we were in 2nd overall for most of the race, and we managed to finish 1st in our class with the first P3. So that was pretty good. The team did a good job with the car, and my co-drivers drove well. And we managed to get the fastest lap of the race, and we were in an LMP3 car against Ginetta G57s, which is an LMP2 car. So we're pretty happy to have the fastest lap.
And the 78 Speed Lover Porsche took the first trophy this weekend for the SPX class.
It was kind of tricky because it started a little bit wet, and then it was really raining a lot. So in Spa, especially in Spa, it's kind of difficult to drive in that situation. But yeah, we managed to bring the car home in one piece, so I'm quite happy.
So let's confirm the results of the first race. Simpson number 3 Ginetta, the overall winner, with a nice round 100 laps completed. 3 laps back, the Ginetta number 4 Prime Racing, just slightly ahead of Ligier number 8, being the only P3 entry this weekend. That was the class winner too, of course. If we take that P3 car out of the finishing order and just look at the P2s, Simpson Motorsport Ginetta G57 takes its class. The Belgians have Prime 2nd in class, 3rd position the 2nd Simpson entry. In SPX, the Speed Lover Porsches have 4 laps between them, winning with 94 laps the number 78, their 79 car in 2nd position. There are obvious differences between GT category cars and the prototypes, but within the prototypes there are different classes. How does this work?
Well, I mean, I can't really answer that question because I haven't driven this that many types of this car, but it's quicker than a P3 because of the engine and the better aero. It doesn't conform to any particular formula. It was a car that Lawrence Tomlinson and Ginetta wanted to build to really offer to customers as a track day car, a car to race in sort of Formula Libre type events around the world, and I think it's being quite successful. They're selling them all around the world now.
I think there's the car falls in a gap between LMP2 and LMP3, so it's significantly faster than the LMP3 cars, but not as fast as the latest spec LMP2 cars. And there are probably not enough of them around to kind of make a one-make series for them. And then I think when we compete in other series, they try and bring the performance of the car back closer to P3. So it's a combination of trying to juggle a whole lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, but this is it's not a car to run in any particular formula. It's places like Creventic that allow it to run, and it did run in V2V for a while, I believe. But yes, it's a bit of an anomaly in many respects.
Well, this is the Ginetta G57. It was developed mainly to create a car where it's a prototype, but it's not so, let's say, difficult to get into it. The cost has been kept low, although the performance is very high. That was in mind. So when people want to enter a prototype series or endurance, usually the cost is very high. So Ginetta decided to create a car that kept the cost down, made it affordable to people. Friendly to drive for a prototype, but still it's very, very quick on the track.
Drivers are clearly enjoying the fact that Ginettas can run without any limitations on their lap times.
At the moment we are the only series that does not balance the performance of the Ginetta G57. They can race amongst old LMP2 cars in our series, whereas in some other series they are being balanced in terms of matching the performance of an LMP3 car. What we are doing is we're having a class that is faster than the LMP3 class, but still able to compete with each other.
The Ligier P3 finished third overall in the first race, so it's clear that the Creventic organisation have reached their goal of competitive racing with the P3 and P2, whilst both cars are still delivering maximum performance.
It's great. We just need more cars on the grid, really. So Ginetta came to Dubai. We had 8 cars in Dubai for the 24-hour support race. We've come to Spa. We've had 4 cars, and it's a great series. Lots of track time. We just need more prototypes and more GTs to come and race.
And when weather intervenes, the GT cars can still sometimes battle with some of the prototypes.
One of them, I pulled away when it started raining again in the middle of the race. I pulled away from him, and he was right behind me. So he was about to lap me, and then I pulled away from him and never saw him again. So therefore, I feel pretty good about that. So I guess our cars are pretty good in the rain. Yeah.
I'm used to Le Mans series where you have mixed grids, GT and prototype. It's how it should be. We as drivers want bigger grids. We want lots more cars. A variety of cars is important. So, G57s, maybe P2s, P3s, and GT cars. More cars is better for everybody.
The decision to allow GT cars to join this race at Spa was made quite late in the season. And that meant only one team have took the opportunity, because many of their competitors are having their cars shipped to the USA for the next GT endurance race in Austin. The speed lover drivers would have liked more teams to take up the challenge.
You'd like to have more cars, though. That's really what you'd like, a little more competition, because we are 2 in our category, so the protos are fine, but we have 2 in our category, but still fun, still great, still great, yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, Spa on slicks with the grip starting to come to you in a high downforce cars, something I've only ever dreamed of. It was really, really cool.
Creventic organises GT, TCR and prototype endurance series. At some tracks they can't race the full 12 or 24 hours in one go because of noise regulations. But here at Spa, for the prototype series, Creventic decided to create 2 separate races.
We want to make it possible for the prototypes to work on their cars in between the 2 races. Compared to other races where we have a split race that is combined, we have an intervention break, so a parc fermé in between, where teams are not allowed to work on their cars. For the prototypes we want to make it possible that they can adjust their cars for the next day overnight. There are some cars in the prototype world that have not raced endurance races of 12 hours yet. And we want to make it possible for cars to last and see the finish flag.
Next we go racing in the second Hankook 2 times 5 hours of Spa-Francorchamps. It's day 2 of prototype competition at the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps.
We're here at the start grid of the second race of the prototypes for the 2 times 5 hour Spa-Francorchamps. And we're going to expect a fierce battle for the overall classification.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be difficult conditions. First couple of laps it's still wet. Maybe it will dry up, so we'll have to look after these wet tyres or possibly go to slicks. It's yeah, it's going to be an interesting start for sure.
Yesterday, the drivers had to endure a lot of rain, and the Hankook wet weather tyres had their work cut out to keep their grip. It's 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, and already the weather looks better than it did yesterday.
The track right now is quite dry, but it might rain later on. So right now it's important to choose which tyre to start with. Do you start with slick tyres? Do you start with wet tyres? Of course, slick tyres give you a bit faster speed now. But if it starts to rain, you will need to change. Others might decide to start on wet tyres, and they don't need to change tyres in case it rains.
We start with wet tyres. Probably we have to change in some laps, but I think it's more safe to start in wet. The other fast cars are doing the same. 2 Porsches are on slick. We'll see, but probably no risk at the beginning. It's better because we don't know what happens on the other side of the track.
The speed lover Porsches are on slicks.
Yeah, it's a little bit dangerous, I think, but we looked at the weather like everybody. They don't announce rain before 2 o'clock, so I told my drivers to be very careful the first 30 minutes, but I hope that the other one have to make an extra stop if they put on rain tires, so that we can win some places here. It all depends on the driver, he has to be careful. Most of the time they take a lot of risks, so I'm praying that I don't hit anything.
We expect a good battle for both the overall lead and especially within the P2 class we are having 3 cars that are very competitive with each other. But I think we are also going to see that the P3 car can push quite far up to the top and maybe end up on the overall classification again.
The engines were fired at 9 o'clock for a 10-minute period to allow the essential fluids to get up to operating temperature. The cars rolled from the old start line on the run down to Eau Rouge, but they'll see the green flag on the other side of the paddock at the new Formula 1 start line. The pace car moves off the track. The P2, P3 and SPX cars are ready for the next 5 hours of racing. The lights are off and the field rushes down to La Source, the first corner. Yesterday's winner, the number 3 of Simpson Motorsport, already creating a gap to the rest of the field. However, this might be down to some conservative driving by James Winslow.
Yeah, the guys decided to put me in for the start of the race. Unfortunately, we were bedded in brake pads for the first 2 or 3 laps of the race, so I had to be a bit conservative for 2 laps. Kept second position, which was nice. And the leader pulled a bit of a gap on me, maybe 10-15 seconds, and then the brake pads came in, and by lap 4 we were very, very quick.
It's the end of the first lap for the prototype and GT cars here in the Ardennes. And there's a decent gap for the leading number 3 Ginetta, but it's far from safe.
Yes, I outbraked myself at the top of the Kemmel Straight coming into Lacombe. The braking zone was very damp there, so that's when we first moved on to slick tyres. Straight out the pit lane, tried to push a bit too hard, and yeah, the next corner was still damp, so that caught me out. That caught a few of us by surprise, I think. Also down at the chicane at the last corner as well, the bus stop chicane. It was very wet there in the braking zone, so yeah, it was enjoyable trying to manage different driving styles for different corners, even on the same lap.
If you don't respect track limits, you can expect a penalty from race control.
I think I was okay because I didn't take the full access road. I went straight on at the chicane and then cut back onto the cut back across to the right rather than taking the full access road. But no, I think it's okay as long as you don't gain an advantage.
The brakes are now working properly on the number 8 Ligier, and it's closing up.
Managed to catch the leader again, catching him I think 2 or 3 seconds a lap, which is nice for us because we're in an LMP3. There's no other LMP3s in our class, and the LMP2, which is faster. It was nice for us to be able to catch them. The wet conditions help with that. Yeah, and then we had a side-by-side battle for the next 45 minutes.
Another long stint. I think it was 2 hours this time, so longer than yesterday's stint, and it was drying up as well, so that's obviously more G-forces on the neck and shoulders. I'm feeling it a little bit, but yeah, amazing stint. I had a lot of pressure from the LMP3 car at the start when it was wet. I think my tyres went off quicker than his, but luckily with the extra power in the Ginetta, I could pull away from him down the straights. And then once it dried up, the true pace of the car came out, and I was able to pull away on slick tyres.
There are parts of the circuit that are still a bit damp, but those cars that made the decision to start the race on slick tyres seem to have made the best tactical choice, at least for the time being.
It was a good decision. Of course, we knew that it would be difficult in the beginning, and it was. The first half an hour was really really difficult and tricky. But once we managed to keep the pace the first half an hour, afterwards it got drier and drier. Still not completely dry, but I think it was good we didn't lose any time changing tyres. Was not too bad.
Admittedly not a huge field, but still great battles on what is a very long track. Prime Racing and Simpson both have Ginetta G57s. The Belgian Prime Racing entry is lapping the Simpson. Meanwhile, the other Simpson Ginetta still leading the race and passes the 78 Porsche, but the GT drivers still happy to be out there competing with the prototypes.
The Protos and the Porsche was not as big as in the beginning, and I mean the Protos, they started all in rain tires. We were the only ones starting. The Porsche were the only ones starting in slicks, so that's why they had to stop to change the tires. Of course, they won some time in the beginning of the lap times were. The difference was that huge that they won really a lot. So I don't even think that they lost a lot during the changing of tires, because they won a lot before. So I think it was not the only reason, no.
Let's take a look at the Red River, Eau Rouge, and the standings with 3 more hours of racing to go. Simpson Motorsport number 3 Ginetta once again in the lead, a 3-lap gap to the rest of the top 3. Prime Racing is second, Monza Garage's number 8 Ligier third. That JSP3 Ligier of Monza also holds the lead in the P3 class, whilst in P2 it's the Simpson and Prime cars holding the first and second place, just as they are in the overall standings. Third in the class, the number 2 Ginetta G57, also of Simpson. SPX, the Porsche 991 Cup cars 78 and 79 of Speed Lover have a lap between them. The 24-hour Prototype Series competitors have their tyres supplied by Hankook, the title sponsor. Hankook have made sure the rubber is the very best compound for these prototype cars.
Today we're looking at 2 different types of tires. Today we brought the new Prototype Series tires with us. As you can see here, this is the new Fat Lady, so-called Fat Lady, for the big prototype cars. It's 13-inch. You can see the sidewalls are much bigger than the GT tires, which are here. For the rear axle, which is 320 millimeters for the GT3 car. And for the prototypes, we are using 217s, but 13-inch, 18-inch.
The difference is not just in the size.
Now, it's not only the side, the construction is also different. When you see, for example, the big sidewalls here, they are really soft construction because the prototype cars are more or less formula cars. So that means a lot of suspension work is also done by the tires. And the compound is much, much softer than a GT car because the cars are lighter and even more or less the same horsepower, but the car weight is a big difference.
So, with GT and prototype cars on the grid, Hankook have had to bring 2 different kinds of tyres with them, and they can't be switched between the types of cars.
The 13-inch tires are real formula tires. You can go really fast with these tires, you can push the tire really hard, and as I told you before, there's a big difference from the stiffness of the sidewall because the CN and prototype cars have a totally characteristic, and therefore we need much different tires. For example, if you try to use this on a GT car, after 2 laps you will stop right away. There's no way. When you go the other way around and put the 18-inch, for example, the GT tire on a prototype car, you cannot run with the car because you have no car setup. You mean that you have no suspension work. Your suspensions in a GT car is totally different than the system in a formula car. So that means with that really stiff 18-inch tires, you have no chance to survive on a CN or on a prototype car. Your car will not run. You have no corner speed. The braking is totally different. So that means you also have no fun with these tires.
Hankook hasn't just used an existing tyre. It has developed these tyres specially for the prototypes.
We developed these tires now almost for 1 year on different type of cars. That means up to big formula cars. Therefore, this was the main development idea behind, but it's also a big intention for us to have the right tires for the prototype cars.
Hankook's knowledge of racing tyres is the accumulation of many years of experience, and that experience is shared by Hankook to any of the teams who want to improve their setup. Coming next, the race to the checkered flag in the second 5-hour competition for prototypes and GT cars at Spa-Francorchamps. The Hankook 24-hour prototype endurance series is in Belgium, in the beautiful Ardennes region, This weekend's event split into 2 separate races. Yesterday, an awful lot of rain. Not so much today, but many of the drivers that the track still hasn't been totally dry.
It was very, very eventful. We had started in the rain, well, not in the rain, but with a wet track on rain tyres, and then the track started to dry out, switched on to slicks. Every corner was different and changing each time we went round. The grip levels, I don't think any lap of the track was the same, so it kept changing every time we came round. I ended up having a really, really, really big moment. Spun the car coming out of one of the corners flat in fifth and went down the side of the grass, accelerating all the way. But we managed to get the car back. The guys replaced the front, and we're fighting our way back now.
James Winslow did the first stint in his car today, and the rules in the Hankook powered prototype endurance series means he can't get back into the car.
Yeah, I was in the car for an hour and a half. I'm classed as the pro driver in the team, so the pro driver is only allowed to do an hour and a half of the race. So I did my maximum allocation, and the 2 bronze drivers I drive with will see out the, a 5-hour race, so the other 3.5 hours race. So I did my maximum allocation.
3 hours still to go, so what can we expect?
Well, we're currently running 3rd place in the general classification. Without any specific incidents, I think that's where we should end.
Maximum driver time here is 2 hours, so everyone now has had a driver change. Steve Tandy in the number 2 Ginetta, he got in about half an hour ago.
Yeah, that was really good. It was great to get out for the first time in this car in dry weather. Never driven it before in the dry, so yeah, it took a few laps just to get the tyres in. It's so difficult to keep heating them in this sort of very low ambient temperature today. But once we got 3 or 4 laps under our belt, then we were just sort of bashing away, yep, and going for the times. Yeah. I don't know how long I was in the car. Hour and a half, hour and 3/4, something like that, yeah, not too sure.
But before the end of his stint, Steve had to deal with some technical issues.
Yeah, right on the last lap coming in, I got the quarter box, and then coming out of the left-hander up on the hill, going down into Pouon, everything just cut. The electronics cut, lost my engine, the gearbox, so I pulled off and recycled the electrics and brought her in. So hopefully it's just one of those electronic gremlins that you'll never find the calls of.
And now the car is handed over to Mike Simpson.
Well, Mike's the factory driver, the development driver, so he'll know what to do.
No, Steve's really taken hold of the car in difficult conditions, wet and dry, and now slicks on a damp circuit, but he's done a great job, kept up with the young guys, so I've got a job to do now.
The Speed Lover team have taken this opportunity to enter 2 Porsches. In their last race at Portimao, the cars had engine failures, so this is the perfect opportunity to see if the repairs mean the car is back up to endurance racing standards again.
Yes, I want to go with this car to America to do COTA. And we had a new engine in, a new gearbox, and everything works perfect. So now we have 3 days. We have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, put it Thursday on the boat, so we put on new parts, so it will be excellent for America.
Still out front, the number 3 Ginetta of Simpson Motorsport. 4 laps of the lead now over the number 8 Ligier in second.
Well, the stint was quite long. It was 1 hour 45 minutes. The car was doing really good. At the beginning I had some lockups, but on the end the balance was quite okay. Honestly, it was quite boring because there were no other cars around me and I didn't have to push for my position. But it was an interesting stint.
The number 3 Simpson entered car profiting from earlier issues of the number 8 Ligier.
We were just going to connect the roll bar from disconnected to connecting the roll bar, but the team made a few errors and it took 30 times longer than it should have. So we sat there with the slicks getting cold, and yeah, that sort of put us 2 laps behind. So a bit of an error from the team, but hey, we're all learning, and we're still in the race. We're still second, and we will push on to the end, and hopefully the guys in front of us have some issues or the race comes to us. So we're a lap and a half in front of the guys behind, and we're 3 laps behind the leader, which is what we lost at the hour slow pit stop. So if we can just maintain second position overall and keep leading our class, then I think we'll all be very happy.
Steve Tandy and Mike Simpson have had great stints, and as a result, the car which had problems earlier on has gone up in the standings.
We've come from the back and we're up now, I think, into third overall, so put us in good contention and very fast laps with Steve. So we'll lose a little bit in the pit stops because we're out of sync a little, but gives me a chance for 2 hours to push, and maybe we can take second overall. That'll be the plan, I think.
Getting close at the finish flag, but the speed lover Porsche number 79 is in trouble.
I got a bit caught in the rain, you know, and went slightly off at Blanchimont and got into the grass, and that was kind of it. You know, I ended up in the fence. My teammate was right behind me, you know, and so it kind of I allowed myself to be distracted a bit, and in Blanchimont I went a little wide, you know, so that's how I got onto the grass.
This was one of 2 cars that were being prepared for the next race in the USA in Austin. Well, this caused them issues for the next race.
As you can see, it's nearly bodywork. It's a pity that he's out of the race, but he has done 75%, so he will be qualified. And the damage is not that bad, so it's never good, an accident, but it's not a disaster. So.
Almost at the end of competition, Simpson Motorsport quite confident.
I think we can win it. We have quite a big gap and only a couple of minutes to go, so we are quite confident that we can win the race.
And Rick is right. For the second time this weekend, it's a happy Andreas Lascaratos in the number 3 Ginetta G57 Simpson Motorsport who takes the checkered flag.
Yes, well, it was a team effort with Simpson Motorsport, Rick and Ben also. They also gave me a fantastic car to drive. They had their first 2 stints. They were really, really fast. We got a very good car at the end, and mixed conditions, but we pulled it off second day in a row.
It's been a memorable weekend for the team as Andreas reflects.
Well, it was really a learning curve. I haven't driven the car before, not in the wet, not in the dry. We only had some shakedown sessions in the UK, so it was really pretty much the first racing pace. So we're just hoping for the best, but there was a lot of experience from the team and also the guys, so altogether the package was a winning package.
Yeah, it's an awesome race. Couldn't have hoped for more. I mean, winning by, I think it was 5 laps in the end. Yeah, we've done everything we can. We're really happy with the team, Simpson Motorsport and Ginetta Cars. Absolutely awesome weekend. Can't thank everyone enough.
Here's a look at the final standings. With today's race mostly in the dry, the leader managed 11% more laps than yesterday in the rainy conditions. Once again on the top step, Simpson Motorsport, the number 3 Ginetta, Monza Garage second overall, third Prime Racing. And the class results. In P2, Simpson Motorsport take home the BRM Chronograph Trophy for this second race of the Hankook 2 × 5 hours of Spa-Francorchamps. Prime Racing number 4 second in class. Third, the Simpson Ginetta number 2. Second place overall, the only Ligier in the field. That means Italian team Monza Garage take home the trophy for the P3 class. Top position on the SPX podium for the Speed Lover number 78 Porsche, 4th position overall, and that's a car that certainly seems ready to go and race in America. Their sister car completed over the minimum 60% of the race, therefore is classified in 2nd position in class. As soon as the prototype race finished, the grid filled up again, this time with cars from the 24-hour Touring Car Endurance Series powered by Hankook. They were getting ready for their 12 hours of Spa-Francorchamps. Highlights of that race can be seen in another programme. Time now to look forward to the next season of prototype racing. The Superfast P cars will be back in January 2018 for the first race of the year in Dubai.
Next year it's going to be even more exciting. We're working hard on making our belief in the 24-hour Proto Series strong and fulfill it.
Next year's calendar of the Prototype Series has races on 3 continents in 2 championships and more races with the GT Endurance Series cars joining in.
Next year we will have a few races where either the GT and touring cars will race together as well as the GT and prototypes. But I can assure you the prototypes will never race together with the touring cars.
Let's take a look at the 3 series for 2018. As we look at the calendar, we see that the 24-hour Touring Car Endurance Series and the 24-hour Proto Series each have their own schedules. The 24-hour GT Series in the middle will drive with one of the other racers. As we look at the schedules, one thing to notice is that all of the series have 2 championships. A 3-race championship of the continents to be held in Asia, in Dubai, in Europe at the Portimao race, and for the Americas, it's the race at COTA in Austin, Texas. In the TCE European Championship, the races are at Silverstone, Imola, Portimao, Barcelona, and back here at Spa for the final race of 2018. The 24-hour GT series will have the same races for their Championship of the Continents, whilst their European events are at Silverstone, Navarra, Imola, Portimao, Barcelona, and also here at Spa. The 24-hour Proto Series have their Dubai, Portimao and COTA races for the Championship of the Continents. The European rounds for the prototype cars will be at Silverstone, Navarra and Portimao. For more information about next year's racing season, including how you could be on track, check 24hprotoseries.com. A weekend that has seen a lot of race time for the drivers is now over. The Ligier and Ginettas are packed up and ready to ship to Dubai. There they will join the other entrants, Enormous, Tatus, Wolf and Origus, for the first race of the Championship of the Continents. Before that, the GT cars are off to Austin, Texas and the Circuit of the Americas for the Hankook 24 Hours of COTA. And that race will see me in a slightly different role. Until next time, thank you for joining us. I'm John Hindorf, wishing you great endurance racing.